He didn't even open the damn screen door, just stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight, like I was some stranger trying to sell him bad siding. "You're not welcome here, Lydia. Go home." That was it. No hi, no, thanks for coming, just flat, final, cold as the wind blowing through the cornfields behind him. "My name's Lydia Morales. I'm 32. I live in Ames, Iowa. I run a small animal clinic downtown. Last year, I got voted best vet in Adair County. Not that it means a damn thing to my family anymore. I'd driven nearly 2 hours for the bonfire. Woke up early, baked my grandfather's pumpkin loaf from scratch. Roasted the damn pumpkins myself like I always do. Bought gifts for everyone. I really thought this year was going to be different. A clean slate. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I even dressed the way Mom likes. Jeans, boots, flannel, hair pulled back. Nothing flashy. I parked where I always do, across from the old shed, and walked up slow, taking it all in. The air smelled like wood smoke and cider. Laughter echoed across the yard. From the porch, I could see the fire pit already going, strings of lights hanging from the trees, hay bales lined up like always. But it was that screen door that stopped me dead. Through the mesh, I saw Ashley tossing her head back, laughing with Katie. Dr. Redford stood by the fire, sipping cider like he hadn't spent the last year avoiding my calls. All of them were there. All of them looked fine. Comfortable, like I'd never even existed. I held up the loaf. "I brought this, and some gifts. Just wanted to—" Dad didn't move. Ashley found the letters. "We know what you did." "What letters?" "You know damn well." I just stood there. My hands were starting to shake, but I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me drop anything. I set the loaf down gently on the porch rail, laid the gift bag beside it. I didn't say another word. As I turned to leave, I caught Katie glancing toward the door. She saw me, looked right at me, then turned away. The walk back to my truck felt like 100 miles. My boots crunched on the gravel, but I kept my shoulders straight. I didn't cry. Inside the cab, I slammed the door and gripped the steering wheel. I stared through the windshield for a full minute before I grabbed my phone. There was only one number in my head. I dialed. "Jack, it's Lydia. You free to talk about that thing we discussed last spring?" He picked up fast. "Absolutely." I hung up without another word. 20 minutes later, my phone lit up again. The reckoning had officially started. Jack said, "I'll call you back in the morning with a plan," and I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, without saying anything else. My hands were still tense on the steering wheel. I didn't drive off. Not yet. Because no matter how far I tried to get from that porch, from my father's voice, from Ashley's smirk, none of this started tonight. It started way back in Adair County, before either of us knew what resentment really was. Growing up, the Morales name actually meant something. Dad ran one of the largest corn operations in the state. If you drove through Adair County in October, you'd see our trucks on every highway. My mom ran the general store on Main, right across from the post office. Knew everyone by name and probably their blood type, too. We were the family who brought the catfish to the Sunday fry. The ones who stayed late to clean up after the 4th of July parade. If you skipped the Morales bonfire, you better have had a funeral to attend. Or you'd hear about it for a month. Ashley and I grew up under that spotlight. Same chores, same curfews, same beat-up bicycles. But it didn't take long for folks to start saying things like, "Ashley's gonna run the grain business one day," and "Lydia's book smart, maybe college-bound." Mom and Dad didn't argue with it. I don't even think they noticed it, but I did. I loved the land, always did, but not the business. I was the kid out in the shed trying to bandage barn cats and rescue birds with busted wings. By junior year, I knew I wanted to be a vet. I got into Iowa State, didn't ask for help, paid my own way, loans, and all. Ashley stayed, went straight into the grain business with Dad, learned every bolt and gear of the dryers, every spreadsheet, every market trend. They liked that, said it made sense, said I was doing something important too, but always with that tone like it was cute I cared about sick goats and rescue labs. Then Grandpa died. That's when the air in the room changed. I remember the day they read the will. It was cold, late March, snow still on the north fence line. We all thought Ashley would get the farmland and I'd maybe get the truck or some savings bond. But Grandpa left me the entire property, just over 200 acres of prime soil, plus the barn and the old grain silo. Not the grain business, that stayed with the family LLC. But the land? That came straight to me. Ashley looked like someone had slapped her across the face. I was stunned too, but I figured he left it to me because he knew I cared about the actual land. I'd talked to him for years about conservation, soil rehab, prairie restoration. We had a whole thing going, notes, diagrams, even a sketch of a community learning center he wanted to build out near the creek. It made sense to me, not to Ashley. The day after the funeral, she cornered me in Mom's kitchen while I was wiping down the counter, said, "How long were you working on Grandpa? You pull this crap while he was in hospice." I remember the way her voice cracked, not from crying, but from rage. I told her flat out I didn't ask for the land, that I didn't even know about it until the will. She didn't buy a word. "You manipulated a dying man," she hissed. "I ran the business. I stayed. You swept in with your pretty speeches and your college education and stole what was supposed to be mine." I didn't answer. I just picked up the trash bag and walked it out to the bin. She followed me all the way to the back porch, still talking. I shut the door behind me, and that's the moment the distance between us stopped being quiet. It turned into war. The real damage didn't happen all at once. It built slow, like rust in a pipe, one family dinner at a time. At first, Ashley just dropped hints. Some people don't understand what real work looks like, or guess land conservation means locking up valuable ground and pretending it's noble. That kind of crap. Mom would change the subject. Dad would sigh and keep chewing. I'd sit there gripping my fork, pretending mashed potatoes could absorb tension. Then it got worse. She started calling me out in public. Church picnics, co-op meetings, even the damn Adair Fall Fest. Said things like, "Nice of Lydia to show up." You know, the landowner. Always with a smile, always loud enough for a few heads to turn. I stayed quiet for too long, thinking it would pass. It didn't. By winter, I offered a compromise. I met Ashley at the diner, bought her coffee, and said, "Look, the land is mine on paper, but I want it to mean something for both of us. What if we shared use? You could lease part of it, and we could work on a long-term stewardship plan, together." She leaned back in the booth, arms crossed. "Stewardship? You sound like a grant application. What I want is control, or cash, I don't care which." "It's not about profit," I said. "It's about keeping it alive. That's what Grandpa wanted." Ashley scoffed. "No, that's what you want." I remember that coffee went cold between us, untouched. That's when Katie started acting weird. She and I had been tight since 10th grade. Stayed close through college, boys, breakups, everything. She helped me land my first job at the vet clinic in Ames, even co-signed my first apartment lease. She was like a sister, honestly closer than Ashley ever was. But somewhere in the middle of all this, she started pulling away. Text replies got shorter. Calls went unanswered. I finally asked her straight out, "Did I do something?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "You're being rigid, Lydia. You act like everyone's out to screw you. It's not healthy." I offered to share the damn land. And when Ashley said no, "You just shut it down. You're making it about principle, not people." That stung. Because Katie had been there, she knew how Grandpa talked about the future. She knew. I said, "Are you serious right now?" She shrugged. Maybe she deserves something more than dirt and pride. I walked out. Didn't slam the door, didn't say goodbye, just left. Dr. Redford? He was a whole different mess. He always smiled, always asked how the clinic was doing, still called me his best protege in front of the vet board. But every time I tried to bring up the land stuff, he went quiet, changed the subject, said things like, "Families figure these things out, Lydia," then vanished for weeks. I stopped trying. Then came the 4th of July. I only went because Mom called 3 times that morning and promised Ashley wouldn't make a scene. We grilled out back, like always. The dogs ran circles in the grass. Fireflies started blinking before dark. But the whole thing felt like a damn play. Ashley didn't speak to me, didn't even say hi. She referred to me like I wasn't standing right there. She left, she told Uncle Leo, waving her beer. Moved to Ames, made herself the hero. Grandpa was old, but she knew exactly how to push him. I stood 6 feet away and heard every word. Mom was wiping down the dessert table, eyes darting everywhere but mine. Katie sat by the fire pit, not saying a thing. I lasted another 20 minutes. Didn't even grab a plate of food. I walked to my truck, keys clenched in my fist, feeling like the last guest at a party I never got invited to. And I decided right there, I was done pretending we were still a family. I didn't speak to any of them after the 4th. Not Mom, not Katie, not even Dr. Redford. Then, 2 weeks before the bonfire, my phone rang. I saw Mom on the screen and nearly let it go to voicemail, but something in me picked up. "Hi, honey," she said, soft like nothing was wrong. "We're doing the bonfire same time as always. You should come by. Sunset's best. Bring that pumpkin loaf everyone loves." It threw me. After all the silence and side eyes, she sounded like nothing had happened. Just warm, simple, like she actually missed me. So I said okay. I didn't ask questions. I wanted to believe it. The next morning, I roasted 2 pie pumpkins, like Grandpa taught me. Halved, seeded, brushed with molasses and cinnamon. Took me half the day to get it all right. That loaf was more than food. It was history. I didn't stop there. I went full in. Bought a fresh pair of insulated hunting gloves for Dad. Good ones, leather palm, waterproof. Found a rare seed catalog for Ashley she'd mentioned wanting at last year's co-op mixer. Picked out bath oils for Mom, lavender and citrus, her favorite. Got Katie a leather planner with her name embossed on the cover. And for Dr. Ice Redford, I made handmade dog biscuits with bone broth and sweet potato. Tied them up with twine and a thank you tag. I packed everything in the front seat like it was precious cargo. That morning, I even dressed up a little. Clean jeans, nice flannel, hair braided like Grandma used to do it. The drive out to the Morales place hit me hard. It was full harvest, sun dragging low, gold spilling across the fields. Corn tall and rustling in the wind. Combines parked along the fence lines. It smelled like earth and diesel and fall, all mixed together. For a second, I forgot the tension. Just felt grounded. Like maybe Mom was right. Maybe it really was just time to move forward. Then I pulled up. The driveway was packed. Trucks, trailers, coolers in the beds. Kids running through the yard, couples near the fire pit. That string of white lights still wrapped around the fence posts. Laughter carried on the breeze, familiar and sharp. I held the loaf in one arm and the gift bag in the other. Walked up the steps steady, heart hammering but hopeful. I knocked. Dad opened the door, just the inner one. The screen stayed latched between us. He looked at me like I was mud on the floor. "You are not welcome here," he said. I blinked. "What?" "Ashley found the letters. We know what you did." My voice caught in my throat. "What letters?" He didn't budge. "You know damn well," I froze, couldn't speak, couldn't move. My fingers tightened around the gift bag. Through the mesh, I saw Katie by the fire pit, laughing. Dr. Redford stood beside her, looking toward the barn like nothing was happening. Ashley sat in a lawn chair, cider in hand, legs crossed, watching me like a hawk. Her lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. I looked down at the loaf in my hand. Still warm, I placed it on the porch rail, set the bag next to it, turned and walked back to my truck without another word. I didn't look back when I left the porch, just kept walking, slow and steady, like my boots weren't filled with concrete. I just reached the gravel when the screen door creaked open behind me. Ashley's voice cut through the yard, sharp and high. "Should we tell her? Or just let her pretend she didn't blackmail a dying man?" I stopped cold. A few heads turned toward the porch. Someone chuckled, someone else went quiet. I turned around. "What the hell are you talking about?" I said. Ashley stood just inside the doorway, arms crossed, cider glass sweating in her hand. "The letters. You wrote to Grandpa, said if he didn't rewrite the will, you'd report him to the county for improper use, water waste, over-application of nitrate fertilizers. You threatened him." "That's a lie," she tilted her head. "They were in his ledger, folded inside, dated and signed. You know damn well I never wrote that. Grandpa wouldn't have hidden it if he thought it was real. That's not how he worked." Dad was behind her now, jaw tight. "We don't need you to explain. We saw the handwriting. I looked at Mom. She was near the fire pit, half turned away, fiddling with a napkin like it might save her. She didn't say a word. Inside, Katie laughed at something someone said. Didn't even glance over. Dr. Redford, standing by the grill, caught my eye and looked away like I was some lost client he didn't want to deal with. I said it loud and clear. I never wrote any letter threatening Grandpa. If you believe I did, you're all fools. Ashley smiled. Or maybe you're just good at covering your tracks. You're unbelievable. No, Lydia, she said, stepping out onto the porch. What's unbelievable is you thinking you could manipulate your way into that land and not get caught. I opened my mouth, then closed it. There was no point. Not one of them was listening. I turned and got back in my truck. My hands shook so bad, I had to grip the wheel just to keep them steady. The engine turned over too loud. No one waved. No one stopped me. The headlights cut through the dark like I was driving into a different life. I passed the church where we used to have Sunday potlucks, the high school where I won the FFA public speaking trophy, the old 4-H barn where I bottle-fed a goat named Tank when I was 12. Places that used to feel like home now just felt sour, warped. I slowed as I passed the vet clinic where I interned during college. The porch light was still on. Someone had set out pumpkins by the front step. I pulled in for a second and killed the engine. That was where I first fell in love with the work. Cattle calls at sunrise, dogs with busted paws, feral kittens hissing in crates. Dr. Redford used to say, "This job doesn't get easier. You just get stronger." Apparently, not strong enough. I didn't stay long, just sat there, staring at the clinic, thinking about how much time I'd spent earning their respect, and how fast they threw dirt on it. Then I backed out and headed toward the only place that still made sense. The land. It was nearly pitch black when I turned down the gravel path. The barn loomed ahead like a giant shadow. Corn stalks rustled in the dark, heavy with late August weight. I parked, cut the engine, and let the silence settle. I opened the door, stepped out, and walked straight toward the barn. I pushed open the barn door, and the smell hit me first. Dust, hay, and old motor oil. Same as it always was. Same as when I was 10 years old, brushing Grandpa's gelding after school. The moonlight spilled through the slats in the wall, just enough to see the outline of the saddle racks, still mounted like he was coming back any minute. His denim overalls hung from the nail by the tack room, faded and stiff with age. His boots sat underneath them, toes worn smooth. I stood there and just breathed. This was his space. Nobody else touched it. Ashley avoided it. Mom said it made her sad. I hadn't stepped inside since the day the will was read. But tonight, I needed to remember who he was and why he gave this place to me. I walked down the row, hand brushing along the wooden wall, stopping in front of the tack room. The door creaked open. Inside, his old ledger notebooks were still stacked on the shelf. A calendar from 2 years ago hung crooked by the feed chart. In the corner was the bench where we used to sketch out plans. Restoration ideas, creek buffer zones, native grass plantings. This land meant something to him, and not because it was profitable, because it was alive. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I'd saved months ago but never used. Jack Delaney, Family Law, Des Moines. I'd met him at a conservation conference in Coralville. He gave a talk on ag land protections and estate strategy. We'd talked over coffee. He said, "If your family ever gives you trouble, call me. Seriously." It rang twice before he picked up. "Lydia?" "Yeah, it's time." "You sure?" "They're accusing me of coercing my grandfather. Fabricated letters, full-on exile. I'm done playing nice." He exhaled. "I was hoping you'd call. Your grandfather was thorough. He left more than a will." I turned toward the open barn door, the breeze pushing in cooler air. "What does that mean?" Jack continued. He left notarized video statements, a full land use plan, handwritten journals, and a second trust. He figured there'd be pushback, especially if Ashley or your parents tried to twist things. My pulse picked up. A second trust? It only activates if the primary inheritance is contested or disrespected. And they've crossed both lines. What's in it? He didn't hesitate. Stock shares from the grain business, liquidity assets, the rest of what your grandfather kept private. And here's the kicker. It's all designated to local nonprofits. Agricultural education, conservation groups, the Adair County FFA chapter. I let that settle. He didn't want them to just lose. He wanted the land to stand for something. So what do? Jack said. We go public. Controlled, smart, and by the book. I'll prep the files. We'll start with the extended family. Give them the facts. Then we hit the core. Ashley, your parents, the people spreading lies. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Let them see exactly what he wanted. Exactly. Send it all, I said. Hold nothing back. I'll email you the final package tonight for approval. We'll release everything first thing tomorrow. I ended the call and leaned against the barn door, phone still in hand. Out in the dark, I could hear coyotes yipping somewhere across the fields. But I didn't flinch. For the first time in months, I felt clear. I turned, stepped out of the barn, and walked toward the house. I walked straight from the barn to the house, grabbed my laptop, approved the file Jack sent, and gave him the green light. By 6:05 the next morning, the truth was out. I didn't wait for the storm. I got in my truck and drove into town. Parked outside Hank's Diner, the only place still open that late on a Sunday. Walked in, ordered meatloaf and sweet tea, and took the corner booth by the window. That's when my phone started buzzing. First, it was a text from my cousin Lauren. Wait, is this real? Then another. Uncle Marty. Ashley lied to us? A voicemail popped up from Aunt Denise. Lydia, sweetheart, I just watched that video. I don't even have words. It didn't stop. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Names I hadn't heard from in months. Cousins, great-aunts, family friends. One by one, every person who watched those videos and saw Grandpa lay it all out. Why he left the land to me, what he hoped I'd do with it, and how he knew there'd be fallout. Jack hadn't held back. Every document, every timestamp, every signed page. Grandpa had left behind a detailed explanation, down to the type of prairie seed he wanted planted by the creek. I kept eating, slow and steady, ignored the stares from across the diner. Small towns thrive on gossip. Tonight, I was the headliner. Then the messages got more personal. Katie, please talk to me. I made a terrible mistake. Another text. I didn't know about the second trust. I never should have taken Ashley at her word. I stared at it for a full minute. Didn't type back. Next call was from Uncle Leo. I let it go to voicemail. He followed it up with a text. We were wrong. We need to talk. I'll come to you when you're ready. Then came Ashley, her first text. You planned this. You're tearing this family apart. Second, Grandpa was confused. You manipulated him even before the videos. Third, you think this makes you look good? It makes you look obsessed. I didn't reply. I didn't even screenshot them. I just watched them stack up. Next, Dr. Redford's name popped onto the screen. Voicemail. I tapped it and held the phone to my ear while I sipped my tea. His voice cracked halfway through. Lydia, I should have known. I saw the signs. I let everyone's comfort come before the truth. I'm so sorry. Please call me. I put the phone down, closed my eyes for a second, then flagged down the waitress for a slice of pie. Outside, headlights passed slow. People rubbernecking, trying to see if it was really me sitting there. It was. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from Jack confirming the documents had been delivered to all parties. I texted him back. Thank you. I owe you dinner and the best bottle of bourbon I can afford. He replied in seconds. Let him chew on the truth for a while. I'll be in touch. I leaned back in the booth. Let the sugar from the pie settle. Let the tension in my chest loosen just enough to breathe. This wasn't over, not even close. But the silence was broken. The lies weren't just whispered behind closed doors anymore. They were out in daylight, ugly, undeniable, and attached to names and faces. I boxed up the rest of the meatloaf and walked out of the diner. I got up early and drove straight back to the land. Didn't even bother making coffee. Just filled a thermos with hot water and lemon and let the sun wake me up on the road. By 8, I was at the barn office, an old storage shed Grandpa had converted into a workspace after retirement. It still smelled like cedar and old paper. I left the door open for the breeze and waited. They showed up around 8:30. Same truck they always drove. same tight faces. My mom stepped out first, her eyes already red and puffy. Dad followed, slower. They didn't look like people coming to apologize. They looked like people bracing for surgery. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. They sat on the old wooden chairs Grandpa had built himself. I stayed standing. Mom got straight to it. I was wrong. She rubbed at her eyes with the back of her hand, like she was trying to wipe away months of betrayal in one swipe. I believed her. I believed those letters. I let her fill the air before you could speak. I just didn't want to think someone in this family could lie like that. "She's your daughter," I said flatly. "So am I." She nodded fast, almost panicked. I know, and I'm sorry." I waited. Then Dad cleared his throat and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "We didn't know about the second trust. If we'd known..." "You'd what?" I asked. "Played nicer?" He paused. "Maybe if we returned some of the land rights, the trust could be reinstated. There might be a way to work with the nonprofits, rebuild the business." I shook my head. "This isn't a negotiation. I'm just saying, maybe there's a path back." "There is," I said, "but it doesn't start with my land. It starts with you two figuring out how you raised a daughter who could lie like that. And a second daughter you abandoned the second she didn't follow the script." Mom flinched, but she didn't argue. "I spent over a year getting iced out of my own family, lied about, humiliated. I tried everything: compromise, patience, silence. All it got me was a screen door slammed in my face." "We were scared," Mom said. Ashley said. I don't care what Ashley said. I looked at both of them, hard. "I won't fight for approval anymore. I'm not going to play the good daughter just to make you feel comfortable. If you're here to manipulate or guilt me, this ends now." Mom reached out, but I didn't move. Her hand hovered in the air between us before she slowly dropped it back into her lap. Dad exhaled. "Ashley's not doing well. After the video went out, she lost it." I didn't ask for details. He went on. "She's not coming today. We thought it was better." "Probably is," I said. They sat quiet for a minute. The wind rattled the barn siding. Somewhere outside, a crow cawed. Mom looked up at me. "We want to rebuild, honestly, if you're open to that." I crossed my arms. "It'll take more than words. It'll take transparency, counseling, accountability." They both looked surprised, like they hadn't expected specifics. "I'm serious," I said. "That means therapy for the three of you. Full acknowledgement of what happened. No more side conversations. No more rewriting history to protect feelings." "And what about you?" Dad asked, voice low. "I'm not the one who needs fixing," I said. "This starts with you, not me." They didn't argue, didn't fight back. They just nodded. I walked them to the door. No hugs, no long goodbyes. They got in their truck and drove off slow, like they didn't quite know where to go next. I stood in the doorway and watched them disappear past the edge of the cornfield. Then I turned back inside and shut the door. I didn't realize how quiet my life had gotten until voices filled the backyard. It was just after 6, a golden September dusk, and I was standing by my grill flipping sweet corn with a pair of tongs that had probably seen better days. The fire pit was going, the picnic table was loaded with food, and people I actually chose to invite were laughing in my yard. Jack showed up first with his wife, Janelle. She brought a lemon pie and a bottle of white wine, and had the kind of laugh that made everyone feel comfortable. Jack gave me a hug, then held up a 6-pack of craft beer. "Lawyer approved," he said. "0 lawsuits, all flavor." Next came Molly and Ray, my vet techs, carrying casseroles and that chaos energy I'd come to rely on. Ray had already challenged Jack to cornhole before his shoes were even off. Then I looked up and saw someone I didn't expect. Uncle Leo. He stood at the edge of the yard, holding a peach cobbler in a glass dish and looking more pastor than family tonight. Neatly dressed, cautious. I walked over. "I brought something sweet," he said. "Didn't feel right to show up empty-handed." I nodded once and took the dish. "Thanks for coming." Before he could answer, another car pulled up. And out stepped Dr. Redford. He looked thinner, a little older. He walked over with both hands tucked deep in his jacket pockets. "Hope I'm not late." I raised an eyebrow. "You're just in time." We didn't say more, didn't have to. And then, Right when I figured that was it, Katie walked through the side gate. She held a basket full of glass jars, peaches by the look of it, and a folded envelope tied with twine. I didn't speak first. I let her. "I made these," she said, voice quiet. "Grew the fruit myself this summer. They're not perfect, but I wanted to bring something real." She handed me the envelope. I wrote it out. Everything I should have said sooner. I took the basket, set it down, and looked her straight in the eye. "Stay if you're here to be honest," I said, "not to make it go away." "I'm here to earn it," she said. "However long it takes," I nodded. "Then grab a plate." The fire crackled louder as the sun dipped lower, turning the sky a deep orange. I made rounds, refilling drinks, checking food, letting the warmth of the night settle over my shoulders. At one point, Uncle Leo pulled me aside. "Your grandfather would be proud of this. Of you." "I think he planned half of it without telling me," I said. He smiled. "Maybe he trusted you to see it through." Later, I stood by the fire pit while everyone sat in lawn chairs or spread out blankets on the grass. I cleared my throat. "Just a quick update," I said. "The land is officially under development. Phase 1 starts next month. Native prairie restoration, a walking trail by the creek, and a small animal learning center for local schools. It's happening," people clapped. Jack raised his beer. Katie wiped her eye. I added, "The house will come later, once the permit clears. But the core, the land, that part's alive again." I looked down at the fire and took a deep breath. "There's no Ashley here tonight," I said, keeping my tone even. "And that's by choice. Mine and hers," Molly asked gently. "Your folks?" "They're in counseling," I said. "They sent a video message this morning. Honest. No excuses. It meant something." I didn't pass the video around. Didn't need to. This night wasn't about them. It was about the people who stayed when things got ugly. The ones who showed up when it wasn't easy. The ones who kept me rooted when everything else blew away. I tossed another log on the fire and watched the sparks fly up into the dark. The next evening, I was back on the land, walking the boundary line with a thermos in one hand and my boots sinking into soft earth. Sun was low, one of those quiet Midwest dusks that made everything gold. The corn was already harvested, so the field stretched bare and wide. I stepped over the old wire fence and cut through the north pasture, where Grandpa first taught me the difference between silt and loam. "This land's a living thing," he used to say. "You care for it, it gives back." That was what stuck. Not the title or the trust, not the way the papers were signed. It was this: soil, wind, sky. The way he'd kneel in the field and explain pH levels like they were sacred text. I stopped at the creek bed, crouched down, and ran my hand through the dark, damp dirt. Stewardship, that's the word he loved. It meant more than ownership. It meant responsibility. It meant showing up every season, even when the forecast looked like hell. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. I pulled it out. A text from Mom. "We're attending the town hall next week to publicly acknowledge the truth. We're proud of you." I stared at the words. Simple. Director. No deflection, just truth. Another buzz. Ashley. "I'm in counseling. Don't expect anything soon, but I'm not proud of what I did." I read it twice. No apology, no excuses. Fine. I put the phone away, zipped up my jacket, and kept walking. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for someone to say they were sorry. Not for them to understand why I stayed quiet. Why I tried to fix things before burning it down. That part of me was gone. Now I was building. Fencing would go in next month. A new barn office after that. Native grasses already ordered. School tours planned for spring. And the prairie? That was just beginning. I walked until the field turned dark and the fireflies came out. Until I couldn't see the fence line anymore. Only feel it beneath my boots.